NRL Fantasy Round 2 Buy, Hold, Sell Special Edition, guys. We're starting with the Cheapies this week. Welcome back. I'm Longy. This is Biz below. Biz, mate, how'd you go last week?
Mate, good mixed week. I was going to say good week, but mixed week. All my cashies did really well. The guys here, I had Noah Martin, I had Ryan Couchman, I had Ramaho here, all in my kind of scoring. But I was let down by the guys I thought I could trust. You know, Haas, Cleary, Walsh, Dylan Brown, all the guys that I thought were surefire, low scores. But hey, I think I'm pretty well placed for this week. It's crazy, but I actually think I'm not trading. So that's probably pretty rare, but feel good about it. Like, I think it was a mixed first week, some crazy scores, some mid scores, but raring to go for round 2.
Mate, a luxury not trading there. I guess you nailed all the cheapies, so you're in a good spot. For me, it was a 9-12, so a bit behind you. The Brad and Best pick so far hasn't gone well, but a season's not made in 1 week, so we'll be all good. I do have to chase Ryan Couchman here, so he's one I want to talk about. Now, for everyone watching along, we're starting with cheapies, then we're going back to buys, and then we're working through pods, holds, and sells. And if you're new to the show this year, the pods are guys who are completely out there, very different players. Buys are your standard guns. Cheapies are cheap in the name. And hold or sell is the guys that you probably have in your roster that you're thinking about moving on. So let's rip into this. Noah Martin first, 316K. He's jumped in price massively, scored a double in that first game, and then had the blessing in fantasy, not in real life, but in fantasy, of Matty Nicholson going down injured. Everything's gone right for Noah Martin. It was a gamble that really paid off. It's one that we both jumped onto, so pretty chuffed about how it's gone. Do you think he's a must-have here, Biz?
Yeah, absolutely. Priority one. I did a pretty in-depth analysis of his position in my team reveal last week, but essentially he was trialing over Matty Nicholson in the right edge spot, and 52 reserve stats, and he just has great combination with Sanders and whatnot. He just looked, as Ricky said, superior. Easy said, just has to be in your team for week 2, and that's pretty much the same thing for Ryan Couchman. I mean, in terms of Ryan Couchman, first guy off the bench, big minutes, massive motor, arguably motor even more than Toby's. The analysis was pretty simple. Like, in terms of even looking back to last year, he was the first guy off the bench. In the trials, he's the first guy off the bench. And just the work rate. Like, you've seen what Toby does in limited minutes. These guys are the exact same. I think Ryan also averages high 50s in reserves. I think he's pretty much... I think it's an easy week this week that you get Noel Martin and you get Ryan Couchman. That's your first 2 priorities. And if you already have them, then you can think of anything else. But Longy, I know, like, it's a pretty simple one, right?
Yeah, I mean, Martin's really easy. Sasangi is one that could potentially cause issues. He's playing center right now. He might move back into forward rotation once Tomoko comes back into the team. So that could be a problem. Ryan Couchman, I'll just flag as well. There were HIAs in that game. A few rotations. Obviously, Setu came off with a cramp as well. So a few things that may have inflated minutes, but everything we've seen from Ryan Couchman is that they view him as very similar to Toby, which means he's going to get a similar role, hopefully, to Toby, and that was really backed up by that game too. So, yeah, massive upside here. Jacob Little isn't back yet too. That could throw a spanner as well. I just like to flag these things because with these cheapies, it's never certain, man.
Yeah, well, I will say on Couchman, must have, in my view, but temper expectations. He's not going to score 58 every week. In fact, I don't even know if he's playable on your bench each week. I think reasonable to expect 45 minutes, 35 to 40 points, which is okay for your 17, but I would not go in there and hold us liable to changing your team to buy Ryan Couchman and you're getting more mid-30s, low 40s going forward. Like, you cannot expect that high 50s average coming off the bench. He's going to get some games where he might get less minutes. And same with Noah Martin. Like, don't expect 2 tries in 80 each week, but the base stats were good too. I think he led the tackle count for the game for the Raiders. So both really good, but temper expectations. They might have started week 1 with the highest score of the year. So just remember that.
I'd say Martin probably has. 80 plus is pretty impressive. Yeah, for Couchman, I agree with your take there. I think that sort of 40-ish area is what you'd expect. The good news is, though, he flexes upwards when there's injuries. That's going to apply to the edge back row spot as well because he plays edge pretty comfortably too. So, guys, Noah Martin, Ryan Couchman, easy options. Now, most people have one of them. So you're getting the other one and you're looking at your second trade now. There's a few strategies you can run. You can either bring in a couple of cheapies, focus on cash gen, or you can look at the buys section we're going to go through next and try and beef up your scoring for this week. In terms of cheapies, Arama here, the back rower from the Titans, who nearly had a hat trick in that game. 3 times he was in the end goal with the ball sitting in front of him on a platter, and he reached out and just couldn't quite grasp it. I like it though, man. Like I have him right now in my team. I love that he played 80 minutes. I love that he's kept his spot. I love that Paxton's on the far extended bench, so hopefully nowhere to be seen. And I love the fact that he's putting himself in a position to score tries, even in a game where they got absolutely pounded. So I'm a big fan of this guy, and I think he's a bit slept on right now because I'm seeing more people talking about selling him than buying him.
That's crazy take to me because you're right. His work rate was actually pretty solid defensively. Would like to see him run the ball a bit more, but he was probably one of their better forwards, I'd say. He did miss a couple of key tackles, but like you said, he could have scored 3 tries, and in a game where they got smoked 50 to whatever, like 4 points or whatever they scored. I'm thinking about the Parramatta game now, but I just think that he got in.
They
good
scored more than us,
positions.
by the way. It was 50 to 10.
Yeah,
so
that's
not
right.
As bad as Parramatta.
I remember it was more than Para, but I tried to just peg them down a bit, just some personal kind of. Anyway, so I think I liked him. Like he did enough, and he's even cheaper than these guys, and 39 off the trot without any real attacking stats. Like that could have easily been a 50 plus. So I really like him. And the fact is that he came into this week less than 10% owned, which is crazy for me because Paxton was like 40% owned, but then Arama Ho, that was the same kind of profile, was 7% owned. Like it didn't make sense to me. And it's like job security. Well, Paxton wasn't that secure, but everyone was on him. So I didn't really get it. So I think he's a great bet. If you've got the first 2 guys, he's an easy number 3 for me this week.
Yeah, he's a goer. Jaden Campbell returning is going to help with that running game, I think, too, because we've seen Campbell absolutely feed edges before, and he breathes a bit of life into this Titans side. So decent option there. And then Lasardi, I've intentionally put in the 4th spot here because I have him below Arama, and that's going to be a bit of a controversial take. I've seen a lot of people talking about buying Lasardi this week. Now, if Lasardi was guaranteed a starting spot going forward, he's a dog, man. He's a dog. Gets through mountains of work, scored that 70 plus. I think his try was like an 8-point try, so it wasn't really a major factor. I love him as a player, but they've made it pretty clear that he's not going to be an 80-minute back rower for them when they're at full strength. Now, in that last game, he did sub off, and he came back on within like 20 seconds due to other circumstances. But you got Sean Bloor on the extended bench. He's been named in reserve grade this week. Unless we hear word that Bloor's just not making it back into the side, which honestly could be possible with how they played round 1, then maybe Lasardi becomes interesting. But you've got Loiero coming back soon too. You got a lot of curveballs thrown in. And at 341K, it's not 271K like Arama. It's not 250K like, Martin last week. It's 341K, which is the price we paid for, say, Ethan Sanders, right? And you kind of need him to get to 500K to be value because, as you mentioned when we were chatting before, you've got to trade him in, then trade him out again. It's a 2-trade proposition.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll say is, I just look at that Storm Eels game, and the scores were just so inflated, right? Like, they just, in terms of attacking stats, there was just so much, there was no defense played by Para. There was tons of possession by Melbourne, tons of 6 agains. Para just couldn't hold onto the ball. I just don't, even them guys who are historically poor fantasy scorers were carving it up. Just look at his second row partner, Joe Chan. A 30 average guy scored 1 million points. I like Lasardi. I think he's got a high work rate, but if he's playing close to the 60, so he came off at the 73rd minute mark, and then if Bloor's on the bench, Bloor is going to play a lot more than 10, 15 minutes. So I think Lasardi could be closer to a 60, 65 minute player. I think if you've got him in your team, well done. I think it's a great pick, but I'm not burning a trade to get him in, get him out. I think he's going to score closer to probably 40, which is still a lot of value, but having a 40 value, exactly like I said, when you start the season, it's you take the cash and trade them out. Whereas now you're trading someone in and out. And a lot of the trades I'm seeing are quite sideways. They're trading players that have 7 or 8 points of value in their price to someone who's got 10 points of value. You're getting more value, but you're not factoring in how valuable a trade is. So trades are worth a lot. So just unless there's clear pathway for significant improvement, I would not do it. But he's a beast, so I could be wrong.
Yeah, and we learned that lesson last year with everyone selling Luke Metcalf, for example, right? He came good, so you kind of got to stick with your analysis. Joe Chan, you mentioned there too. He's 360K. He didn't make this list just because we have such an extensive history of Joe Chan scoring, and I looked at the numbers without the big attacking plays, the 200 meters run, the multiple line breaks, all that. It was around a 30 score, right? Which is kind of what we expect from him. And he's going to have these big days, I would say, just with the way he's playing. He's playing in great form, but
And
at
next to Jerome,
360K, you want more.
yeah.
Sorry, you go?
I will just say exactly like you said, like playing next to Jerome Hughes makes a difference too, but it's hard. There's too many cheapies. So
yeah, and if Lasardi's on the bench as well, if Blore was to come back in, maybe Lasardi spells Chan. Like, there's a lot of mess that can happen there. It's just something I'm staying away from. Moses Leo is the last one here, and of the Storm cheapies, he's probably the most interesting to me. Now, historical data is not good. I'll let you talk about that, but you could make the case that he's a sevens convert that's taken some time to adjust, and this is his breakout. Do you subscribe to that, Biz, or do you think the historical data is something you just have to follow here?
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one. If he was base price, I think it was a good pick, but just the historical data doesn't sell it for me. Like, I was going to pull up my phone here. I went through and looked at his knock-on effect stats. He played 5 games at center. He scored 11, 26, 23, 33, and 18. In 2 of those games, he went off after 60 minutes. But if you just extrapolate that PPM, it's a 25 average. And the 2 games in first grade last year, he scored 31, which lines up with that, and then a 5-point game in 80 minutes. So, in 7 or 8 games of stats there, it doesn't look very good. Kind of, again, like the Parramatta game was just like he was just running over the top of everyone. I think he had 3 line breaks, a try, like an assist, just ridiculous attacking upside. Like, I think he's still serviceable. Like, I think he's still got 100K plus in him easily, especially because they're very low break even, but not when I'm wasting a trade in and a trade out. Like, he could get you 20, 25, 30 points this week. And even in the 2 trial games, it was like kind of 20 scores. So I just definitely lowest to this list. And the guys I'm planning to trade out, it doesn't make sense for me to trade out like a Jesse Colquhoun. Like, no, because he also scored 10 points, 12 points above his break even. Like, who am I trading for these guys? If you don't have some of these sells, I just think a lot of cheapies did so well this week. So if you're moving from cheapie to cheapie, like, don't get sold by 1 score. Anyway, I'm avoiding Leo in a short form.
I'm on the same boat as you here too, man. The only scenario I can think of is hypothetically if someone had Casey McLean in their side and they saw him score 21 with a try and they thought, might get off him. Moses Leo's probably close to, not quite, but close to an equivalent scorer. Very fixture-based, very attacking stat reliant. Probably about 5 points behind someone like Casey McLean. So if you made that move, you could free up, 150K plus, and then you might use that money to do something else. So that's the one situation I'll flag there. If someone, was going really cheap in the back line and they wanted to get off someone like Casey. Now, we'll jump into the buys here, and there's a few juicy strategies to talk about here. This is where it gets kind of more fun and exciting. And for everyone who's new to the show, this is where we start the show normally. Now, I want to talk about a strategy first because we're talking about all these cheapies. We've brought cheapies to the front. And that means most coaches are going to be bringing in at least 1 cheapie this week. What that usually means, like if you're doing a move like you're going across to, Casey McLean to Moses Leo, or you're bringing in Ryan Couchman at 290K or whatever it is, you're probably freeing up some cash. And because of the density of cheapies we have right now, that plays into the old biz strategy, which is the guns and cheapies strategy much more strongly. Like, we didn't anticipate the cheapies to be this good, but the fact that they're so good just means you can kind of consolidate your cash in a few guys here. Now, Herbie Farnworth is one that we weren't super hot on in the preseason, and I don't think he represents value at the price he's at. But if you're going to condense your cash into a guy, Herbie Farnworth up against the Titans on a Sunday afternoon, I guess Sunday night technically, is very, very appealing, especially with what we saw from the Titans last week, what we saw Jesse Ramian do to them. So I'm looking at this and going, oh, man, I'd love to find a way to Herbie Farnworth this week. And if I had Herbie, I'd probably think about captaining him as well. Like, this is an exciting option here. Biz, am I talking crazy, or do you think this is an option that could potentially open up for some coaches?
No, definitely. You're 100% right in terms of you're just going to have a lot of cash this year. So on the flip side, the cashes are great. The guns have been very mid. So I will say that. But I look with Herbie, he scored 54 points. He didn't really look like he did that much in that game. Like, he scored that 8-point try towards the back, but he was at 30 at halftime, and I didn't really see him do anything. like I was kind of watching the game as an Aitken owner, and we'll talk about him, but I was like, yeah, Aitken's breaking tackles, is tackling everything. But he was still only 1 or 2 points ahead of Herbie, like the whole time. And I'm like, what is Herbie even doing? Like he's just like kind of crabbing around, and he's like an offload here and there, but like he just accumulates stats. And I was like, well, you know, if you were a Herbie owner in that week 1 and he scored that like mid-50s without having a crazy offensive game, you're very happy. Like you're like, all right, well, I'm not going to lose too much money here. So yeah, no, I think that's a great strategy, and I just think Herbie by far and away will be the best center this year. And Kiraz could be pretty solid too, but he's on bye this week. So yeah, if you got the spare cash, I don't mind it one bit.
Man, I'd love to find a way to wiggle across to Herbie. It's tough. It's tough to find the cash. That's the only issue. Now, Dan Atkinson, he's a guy you jumped on in advance. So I'll let you do your victory lap here because he absolutely crushed it. What do you think of Atco? What do you see in Vegas? Do you think people should be jumping on now?
Yeah, I think the thing I liked about Atkinson is he scored well enough where he was great for my side, but it wasn't crazy enough for everyone to rush to have him. So like he could still remain a pod for me. The thing is, 850 odd kick meters is not, you can't bank on that every week, right? Like that just doesn't happen. Like even if he's hogging every kick, that will be closer to 500 most weeks, right? I will say on the flip side, Dragons are a very fantasy friendly team. They keep the ball in play. And like all their guys are just the ball's in the middle. He'll rack up a lot of base stats. But what I didn't like was that there was really nothing in his game except kicking and tackling. And he didn't really he looked like a game manager, whereas the Atkinson of old at the Sharks was a bit more of an attacking threat. Now, remains to be seen if that comes through. Like Bulldogs are a good defensive side for sure, so it's hard to judge him off that. But what I like is the base is there. So do I like Atkinson at this price? Yes, he's a similar price to Dylan Brown, who didn't do so well. I think Dylan Brown has much higher upside, but he will have some lower floors given he kicks less. But on the flip side, he runs more. So if you're really high on Atkinson, but you're selling Brown, I don't really understand that because I think they have similar profiles, but in different ways, which contradicts what I just said. But I think, the base stats are there. They're going to have high attacking games. I like it, but just it's hard to buy Atkinson this week, just given the breadth of the cashies this week, So I do think he's one of the better buys this week, though.
Yeah, I'd love to find a way to him because I love that base. And we've seen the attacking upside. In that Rabbitohs game, he was electric, right? So they're going to have easier games. The Dogs are a suffocating side. I'm putting it down to that completely. The fact that they competed with the Dogs as well, they didn't win the game, but they competed with the Dogs. It makes me think they'll probably stick with the game plan going forward. Whereas
they could have easily won that game. They were just so gritty. And I just love that because I think Dragons will surprise some people this year.
Yeah. But I will say the loss to the Rabbitohs in preseason, that's why I didn't jump on Echo.
Yeah,
that's why I didn't jump on because I saw that and I was like, this hasn't worked. This is a terrible strategy. You lost to the South Sydney reserve grade side.
I know, but you look at preseason and the top 2 preseason teams got lapped by 50. So I don't know how much I care about preseason no more other than the base stats.
Yeah. So Echo's a good shout if you can find a way to him. If you have a nice trade, even I hate using Casey McLean as the example for all of these, but he's kind of at the same price. So it kind of works. He's a great player. He's just not effective for fantasy. Now, Atco, solid. I like him. I'd love to get him. I probably won't be able to get him. I will say, too, I think Dylan Brown and Atco, about the same. I think they're probably both ahead of Sanders for me. So I think people are getting a bit overexcited. Like Sanders isn't a ball runner. So him cutting through for a line break try is not going to happen for 3 months, I would say. It'll happen every, once a quarter kind of thing. So I think he's a bit more Jamal Fogarty than Dylan Brown. Adam Dewey up next, 557K, and a bit of a forgotten man. Some people didn't start with him. Most people that didn't start with him did bring him in because of the loophole opportunities, right? So I just want to flag this one. At this price, up against the Cowboys, playing at Leichhardt Oval, he's a borderline captain option. Not just a buy, but a borderline captain option. Biz, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate the Dewey captaincy call, and are you considering it at all?
I'm not considering a captaincy call. I'd rate it a 7 out of 10. Hey, look, I think Dewey's in for a big year. And the other thing I'll say is I saw Sean Johnson, who I think is a very good analyzer of the game, come out and say that Dewey's is smoky for Dally M halfback of the year. So clearly, I think Dewey is a good player. They've given him the reins for the 7 this year. He would have trained as the 7. Luai's come out and said that, he thought he was the guy, but he thinks he's better at 6. So I think they'll hand the game management to Dewey. And Dewey, look, perfect fantasy half, right? Runs the ball, tackles well, goal kicks a lot, ball hog, like just everything you love in a fantasy half. And I think he'll average close to 60, which if he does that would have been a great captaincy option over Haas and Cleary week 1. So, but in saying that, those kind of guys can just pop off for 80 without doing much. So I won't be captaining Dewey, but as a guy who has 3 Tigers in my team, I'm excited to get Dewey back. I'm excited to get Terrell May back, and I'm excited to see Makasini as well. So it should be a fun week, and I think this Cowboys matchup could be very lucrative given how they defended last week.
Mate, 950, and you got Terrell May in the wings there. That's pretty exciting. That's very exciting for you. I agree though. I think Dewey's going to be cracker. I will mention too, Makasini's playing center. I believe it's on Dewey's edge. That's a bit of a downgrade for Makasini. Like Dewey can create a play for his outside man, but he doesn't go out to his center with a lot of volume. So I think Makasini, unless he grabs attacking stats, is going to have a really quiet game. At this stage, I have Tom Chester in my starting side over Makasini, even though I think the Tigers will win the game. I just love Chester's base. So just flagging that one. Dewey is great for Dewey, not necessarily for the men outside him. Now, Ewan Aitken up next, and he's a guy that we both jumped onto. I jumped on late, actually. So Blake Steep getting benched meant he was a sell for me. Even when he got back into the starting side, it's like, no, they've shown their hand. He's out. I moved him to Arama, so freed up some cash there, and then managed to move Selwyn Cobbo to Ewan Aitken. Did post it on the Instagram story for anyone who is upset I didn't tell them personally. But Ewan Aitken was interesting in this game. He played 20 minutes on the edge, then he moved to the middle when Talis Duncan came on, played 40 minutes in the middle, pretty much exclusively. He looked big, he looked powerful, he was busting tackles, he was making them as well. Like I liked Adam Dewey, Ewan Aitken in this game. I just don't love the move because it's going to hurt his attacking upside. He's not going to score as many tries playing through the middle. So I look at that and I go, oh, yeah, okay. It just makes him a bit less fun to own. How do you feel about the role that he's got, and do you think it's going to be good?
Exactly the same way. I will say that he looked like close to their best forward in the first half. He was just Murray and Co looks gassed. Aitken was making the same amount of tackles and taking more runs than them, and he just looked totally unfazed. Like that guy must be fit as hell. Like 20 minutes edge, and then at 20 minutes in the middle, he was busting tackles like every run. And I don't think I've ever seen him play in the middle, but he looked good there. He looked really good there. And I will say that, his kind of floor is pretty high now, but upside is definitely capped. Just the other thing, though, is you spoke about it off air, is that the news about them managing Fafita's foot as well, and that they've got him on like a special program to make sure it doesn't get re-aggravated. That could mean that if it wasn't for Fafita's sin bin, that Aitken might have even come back on for the last 5 to 10 minutes. Or might be games where Fafita gets an earlier rest and Aitken stays on. I think with the Souths, we're in a very offensive, like kind of race to 50 type of game. So they probably kept Fafita out there, especially because it's his first official game with them. On the flip side, you can make the same argument in a shoot to 50. You want to keep some defensive players on like Aitken. So we don't 100% know the truth, but I'm not probably personally not going out of my way to buy Aitken. I think he's still a couple of points underpriced, but he's kind of, if he's playing 60 minutes, like I can't really see much more than a 48 to 52 average. But like if he ever played 20 minutes on the edge and 60 minutes in the middle and he played the game out, like he would be amazing. Like he'd be one of the best fantasy scorers, I reckon.
Yeah, he's just one we had to discuss, right? So I had to put him in the bottom of the buys here because he's going to be a 50 plus average at center. Interesting thing to flag here too, Kolomatangi played 70 minutes in this game. Cam Murray played 70 minutes as well. So the wind-up we anticipated for Cam Murray just isn't going to happen. He's at his 70 minutes already. So there's not going to be additional minutes taken from Aitken over the coming weeks, which we sort of thought might be the case before. So that's good news for his role. Potentially it increases as well. Like you said, he looked fitter than the other two and he got less minutes. So maybe that's the other direction.
I will say the one thing is it's really good that he came out and had such a good game because it kind of puts to bed he'll get benched for Talis Duncan for a while because I think it worked really well for them. And I can't see them going away from that because Aitken was just so safe. So I really like that.
Yeah. UNATkin, we love him. Now, Kellen Ponga, I'm going to throw this one to you because I know you're pretty high on this, but you've got no one you need to buy because you nailed all the cheapies anyway. So talk to us about Ponga.
Yeah, I really like Ponga. I just there's no real person I can sell to him that I'm not trading out a gun for. What I liked about Ponga was just that, they gave Dylan Brown like $6 billion or whatever, but it's still Kalen Ponga's team. He was just moving the troops around. He was getting into great positions. Nice, had a lot of shape. Kept the goal kicking, did a lot more gameplay kicking. Obviously Fletcher Sharp doesn't kick the ball as much. Dylan Brown doesn't kick the ball as much. Sandon Smith didn't really kick too much. Regardless of who's in the halves week to week, I think Ponga's going to get his fair share of kick meters. He's got a good boot on him. And he just looks fit. He looks different. He looks willing to attack. And he looks closer to the Ponga of the first 2 weeks last year, where he came out with a 62 and 82 than every other week. And I think he's still at a good price. Like if you look at the guys who are 600K, Ponga is a guy that could get to 750K. He could be the best wing fullback this year as well, at a discounted price. So I really like the Kalen Ponga trades. I have seen some kind of more Falongo to Ponga trades and things like that. I don't particularly love that because wing fullbacks, they're going to have their ups, they're going to have their downs. So it's hard to go crazy after 1 week, but I think Ponga could be at his lowest price for the year. But he's got good fixtures too. But I don't know. He could come out and get a 20 this week as well. So I don't personally think so. I think he'll back up with another good score. And the signs are just so good, right? Like he just looks so threatening. Every time he had the ball, he looked like he was either going to bust a tackle or make an offload. The only negative thing I saw is he still copped a hit to the head that could concuss him. And that's the way he does play. He sweeps around the back and he kind of catches people off guard and they keep an arm out and he can get slogged across the head. So that's the only scary thing about having Ponga. But he looked great.
Yeah, he was unbelievable, man. You're betting on a form run, really. Like you're betting on him being very good in real life and the Knights being competitive in real life. They're going to have some interesting matchups. Manly this week is not a bad one. Manly's forward pack is a bit fragile right now, and their backline leaks a few points too. So yeah, I can see a good shout for Pong here. I think he pops off this week. I think it's the Warriors next week though, and their pack will absolutely destroy the Knights. So just going to temper expectations going forward. But Ponga is generally sort of matchup proof. Now this page looks great with my backdrop as well. It's like,
looks
like
so
I was
good.
ready for the pods. That's all I wanted to talk about.
Have you got a switch where you're just changing the lights in the background?
I tried the green, man. It doesn't look good with all the para jerseys behind me. I mean, the Australia jersey might go all right with the green.
Yeah.
But, let's get into pods here, man. So we got Galvin, Turbo, Trell, Fisher Harris, Conley Lemuelu. Now, this is where it gets a bit wild, but all of these could pop off. And I'm going to talk Galvin first. A lot of teams right now do not have any Bulldogs players, and they don't have any effective loopholers. Now, Jermaine Hopgood, a lot of people have him. He doesn't count as a loopholer because he got suspended, didn't fight the charge, and Parramatta have been useless enough to play on Thursday night as well in a middle forward position that we can't use to loophole anyway. So thank you, Parramatta, for every form of disappointment you could possibly muster for me this year. It just keeps on going. But Lockie Galvin is potentially that loophole option. Now, if you're thinking about getting Galvin next week, which I've heard some coaches are, you like the 70 points in round one, you like the role there, you like the attacking involvement, you like him playing next to Jacob Preston. I can see the appeal of pulling the trigger a week early here and just jumping on right now at 566K and using him as that tasty little loophole option into this week. Now, you probably have too many halves trying to positional loophole, but that bench loophole is set for the taking. So Lachlan Galvin, 566K. Is it insane, Biz, or do you reckon there's a couple of teams out there that could do it?
Look, I think Galvin, I would just talk about Galvin first as a buy and then the strategy, but just, he was a 51 average player in a poor Tigers team, and he took time to gel last year with the Dogs, but he looked really good, especially next to Preston. I think there's a lot of chances for line break assists, try assists, throwing an easy ball to Preston, he makes line break, he turns it back on the inside for Galvin to score. I think Galvin's definitely underpriced. Would I be buying a player at 566K for a loophole? Probably not. I think loopholes are very useful. Like, look how useful they were for getting players like Couchman and Martin last week. But in saying that, there was a lot more unknowns in week one with a lot of players. You don't know their role. You don't know what their scoring profile looks like in first grade. Whereas in week two, there's less kind of obscurity there. Like you kind of know what's going to happen a bit. I'm not saying you know what's going to happen, but you get more idea of what could potentially happen. So I think the loophole is value is less than week 1, and for 566k with the million valuable halves out there, I personally wouldn't be doing it. But I like Galvin as a buy long term.
Yeah, I guess he's just there to flag a bit of a strategy. There are a few people. I know Turtles kind of wants to get him, and he likes him better than Atkinson.
It's a good strategy. Like it's a unique strategy. It just sounds so left field. But am I saying it's a bad strategy? No, like it could definitely work for teams. Definitely, like I could miss out on a really good NPR score this week because I don't have a looper. And you're laughing if you brought it.
We got to flag the meta, man. We got to flag the meta strats here. Now, Tommy Turbo 622k. A lot of talk about the 6 agains, right? So we had twice as many 6 agains as last year on the same week. Look, you can look into that and say you like it, you don't like it, whatever it is. But in terms of fantasy, it's going to be something that impacts the game. Now, Tommy Turbo at that price with the new sort of COVID ball 6 again rules is pretty interesting. He dominated in 2021 when they had those rules and those 6 agains, and he looked to dominate again in this game, even though they lost against Canberra. There's a world where Tommy Turbo just surges forward and is totally dominant. And if he was 550k or something like that, I think we'd be having a much more serious conversation about this. But he's at that same price as Kalen Ponga, so it's a tougher pill to swallow. I'm not going to do it, but I will be jealous of the couple of coaches that do.
Yeah, the reason I kind of like Turbo more was the stupidest reason, and it's just players speak. Like Hamoli came out and said, Turbo's had the best preseason since like 2020. He's fit. And it's 2021 Turbo. And I was like, oh, that's tempting, isn't it? 2021 Turbo was just that good. But I think Turbo, what I like to see is like a 70-point game against a good Raiders side, like a Raiders side who were like the minor premiers last year. So I think that's really good signs. He's kind of probably up and down for me. I like Ponga more just for the higher base with the kicking and the goals. But I think Turbo, look, this could be one where Turbo has a few hot scores to start and everyone's like, oh no, why didn't I see this sooner? And like they're scrambling to get him in week 3 or 4.
No, you won't catch me scrambling to get Turbo.
Mate, if he comes out,
we miss it.
If he comes out with a 80 this week, you're looking at him more closely next week. Like he could jump to the top of the buys, So
especially if Suafea has a shocker. Yeah, okay, I see it.
Like I'm not a huge Turbo fan. I don't think he's outside of that one season been a top tier wing fullback, but I don't know. Manly could surprise. I think given that they lost Cherry Evans, like this is Turbo, just all Turbo and Hamoli in the forwards. I don't think Fogg is that much of an attacking threat, so Turbo's just going to everything is going to be set up for Turbo. Probably was like that before, but more so this year.
No, he looked fit, looked dangerous, and we had him last year. We got on at like 400k. He played a lot of center, and he was fantastic for us then too. So. Yeah, Turbo, bit of nostalgia there. I'd love to get on. I do have him in, it's sacrilege to say, but in Supercoach, I started with Turbo.
Yeah.
Just because I needed a little bit of the Turbo fix. And Captain Ponga outright as well. So last week was good in the Supercoach. Yeah, for us. I just fall for all the impulses on Supercoach because I don't take it serious. But Troll Mid up next, 743k. This is expensive, man. This is like not that far off Herbie Farmworth. You're looking at less than or about 50k difference between Latrell and Herbie Farmworth. Now, for Latrell to have a big score, he's got to do a lot of good stuff. For Herbie to have a 50, he kind of just has to rock up to the ground and put his jersey on. For me, the gap there is too big. I just prefer Herbie. I think he has the same upside as Latrell, but without the volatility, without the base issues, without the injury issues, without the representative football, without the off-field stuff, without the in and out of games kind of stuff. All of these things, right? And I love watching Latrell, but Herbie's my guy if I'm going to this price at center. I'm assuming you're in the same boat.
Yeah, definitely. I'll just read out the stats for his 75, 2 tries, 6 goals, 2 line breaks, 1 line break assist, 5 tackle breaks and offload. And then in terms of the base stats, it was, you can say the 6 goals is maybe a bit of a base stat given how potent Souths look across the park, but 5 tackles, 1 missed, 107 meters, 250 kick meters. The 250 kick meters at the center spot is really, really nice to see, but he's going to have games where he's like 35, 40, and at 743K, I don't love it, I think exactly like you said, Herbie's just going to be more consistent. Herbie plays all 3 major buy rounds. There's only 50K difference in between them now. So if you're coming up to buy a gun center, it'll be Herbie for mine. But I do like the dual position for Trell as well. And it's always fun to have a pod like Trell because he can come out and score 80 plus any given week. And Souths just look that good, right? I know they're playing Dolphins, who are not the most defensive team, but he looked good. And there could be more of these weeks.
One thing I'm going to flag on the kick meters as well, and I don't really recall because I haven't analyzed Latrell that deeply, but Cody Walker and Ashton Ward, the 2 starting halves, didn't finish the game. So Ashton Ward did that syndesmosis injury reasonably early on, and Cody Walker went off, I think it was about 15 minutes to go of this game as well, or something like that. So yeah, it's a bit murky. When Jamie Humphries comes in, I would assume he takes a bit more of a solid 7 role there, and that lets Latrell play center a bit more. And yeah, I know he did look good though. He looked good in real life. So if you want to take a shot at the pod and you want to pay that price, he may have more big games. He's got Rob Toyer, I think, is the matchup this week. So it might be a bit tougher as well. But the Roosters did leak 40 plus to the Warriors. So you can take a shot at that. Now, Fisher Harris, speaking of the Warriors, what a game, man. What a game. This is the kind of game I've been sort of waiting for from Fisher Harris at the Warriors. And he came out and he just absolutely dominated the Roosters. And it's what he was doing at the Panthers as well. Like, they always cooked the Roosters in the finals, and he just kept doing it in this game. He's got 5 offloads, 3 forced turnovers, great numbers across the board. It's kind of tantalizing at 600K, especially with the middle forward spot being so dodgy. I'm going to throw it to you because I'm not going to ask you, would you buy him, Biz? But where would you rank Fisher Harris as of right now if it cost you no trades between Fisher Harris, Jermaine Hopgood, and Stefano Utokumanu?
Probably Stefano Fisher Harris. Yeah, Stefano Fisher Harris, and then Hopgood for mine. What the thing for Fisher Harris for me is this just a one-off game where he's popped off, or have they asked him specifically to develop an offload like Haas last year, where it was clearly a strategy for them to get him the ball into more offloading positions? If that's the case for Fisher Harris, I think he takes a big leap. The thing is, the minutes were kind of the same as last year, but we've seen that when players can add an offload, it's just a high-scoring stat. Like 4 points just for an offload is I think it's a kind of deficiency of the scoring system, but epic for fantasy, right? Like if you've got these offloading guys. And in terms of your comparison, like I just think Stefano played big minutes. He looked really, really good with the ball in hand. And Fisher Harris, I like it. I like pot options. I think he's still at a good price. Warriors look really good, and I think they're going to crush a lot of teams with their massive pack. But they've got troops to come back, so it might mean less of workload for Fisher Harris, right? So, I'd like to watch. If he comes out in 3 offloads this week again, and it looks like that's the intention, then he becomes very interesting for me next week.
Yeah, you mentioned that, troops coming back. Barnett's a big one. My answer, by the way, I've got Hopgood in first out of that group. I think he goes 60 plus in that Storm game if he doesn't drop the sin bin. So I'm on the Hoppy Express, and a little part of me has to stay on. I'm holding.
Yeah, I mean, it's good because we talked about this in the player Bible that was like 3 hours long like last week. And we were on the opposite side of Hopgood. I know, it was good. It was good. It was good, but I'm still stick to the I'm on the other side of the Hopgood argument. We will talk about him, but yeah, I like Fisher Harris.
Yeah, he's a pod you can go for if you need a middle forward. I don't hate it. Actually, by the way, if I had 3 middle forwards and one of them was Hopgood, and I needed a middle this week, 100%, Fish is probably. I mean, he's the first one we've talked about, right? Like we're not really talking about mids right now. He's probably the one I'd jump onto. Now, Conley Lemuelu, this one's pretty straightforward. He had a great game last week. Bit of attack there. He's a guy who can score a try. 473K. He's kind of floated around that price for what feels like a decade, but it looks like he might be getting his opportunity now. Now, I was a bit concerned when Gilbert was coming back this week that Gilbert would potentially steal edge minutes, and he still possibly could. But a good sign is that Gilbert has been named at prop. So there's the chance that Gilbert is exclusively a middle, which is where I think he plays best. That might be how they run things. But then you throw in the fact that Dan Safidi's back soon, Kurt Donahue, Francis Molo, like there's all these middle forwards. Max Plath is on the bench as well. And you think, are they really going to give Conley Lemuelu 80 minutes while they're juggling all these really good middle forwards? The answer is probably no. So I'm flagging Lemuelu because I've been asked about him a lot. The upside is massive. He could pump out 80 points this week against the Titans. I just think the role is dodgy going forward. I see him a little bit like Lasardi, but more expensive in that he's a weapon, but just not a guy I'm going to be investing in because it's too risky.
Yeah, 47 average when playing 80 minutes on the edge. So he's got a lot of upside in him. But I think there's got too many moving parts in this Dolphins pack. They've just got a lot of players who can play both edge and middle. And he's an interesting one. But given that mid-range price, I don't want to take the risk. So I'll skip on him.
We'll fly past him. Now, holds and sells, guys. We'll talk about 5 players you should hold and 5 players you should move off. For the holds here, we got Dylan Brown, Dave Fafita, Isaiah Yeo, Reece Walsh, and Silfeo Longo. These will be pretty quick fire because they're pretty straightforward. They're all guys that you've invested a bit of cash in.
That's what I want to say. This is actually a great, the week one that some of the lowest performers were the highest owned because it'll kind of split teams up a bit, which I like. So I'm really it worked out pretty nicely, I think.
Hopefully people panic. Now, Dylan Brown's the first one. I put up a post about this on Instagram and got more pushback. So I posted about Dylan Brown a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Everyone was loving it, full support. I posted again the same kind of ideas, just that, he scored a 37. He had no tackle breaks, I think he had 1 offload, 5 missed tackles, no attacking stats. Dylan Brown has tackle breaks and attacking stats. He's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. I got big pushback, and I was like, "Oh, okay, all right." The sentiment is moving the other direction. That's kind of spicy. That's kind of interesting. Look, all I can do is say I think Dylan Brown's going to be closer to that 50 average than the 37 average, and at 485K, he's a guy you can trust. Now, I think here's my theory. I think everyone's getting a little cocky right now because all their cheapies scored stupid, 60s and 70s and 80s, and they're thinking, I don't need Dylan Brown. I have random player I'd never heard of until 2 weeks ago who I can start every week. You can't. You can't. They're all going to screw you over. And in a few weeks' time, we're going to have the Bunnies on a bye. We've got a couple of Rabbitohs players in our teams, and we're going to have a couple of cheapies screw us over, and there are going to be sides that are going, I wish I had Dylan Brown. Oh, he's on the back at 3 back-to-back 60s. This is so unfair. Fantasy's so unfair. It's not going to be good, right? So I think Dylan Brown is a firm hold. I don't think it's worth trading him to Atkinson. I don't think it's worth trading him to Sanders. I think he's better than both of them. I'm sticking with him. But I might also be digging in a hole because I have a very important bet riding on this. Biz, talk a bit of sense here. What do you think?
Mate, I'm telling you now, this is you already spoke about this earlier in the podcast. Just look at Metcalf last year. Just a low score in the Vegas game where they didn't look good. And he came on to an average 55 for the rest of the year. Right? Dylan Brown, everything you wanted to see from him, you saw. You saw the kick meters were much higher than they were at Parramatta, 260 kick meters. You saw the defensive work rate. You saw the running with the ball in hand, 125 meters gained. What you didn't see was the attacking stats. You didn't see you were recovered. I won't go into. But what you saw was Knights looked good with the ball in hand. And I know it was against the Cowboys. The only thing that's really changed was it didn't really work out. 37 points. And I will say that 37, he kind of scored mid-30s in the trial game as well, is the only other kind of counterpoint. But that was against the Dogs.
Minutes,
yeah, it was 60 minutes and Dogs, and they didn't score any points. Dylan Brown is exactly what I wanted to see. I'm definitely holding him. The only knock against him is that there's so many halves this year. But Dylan Brown, what I saw, will be closer to that 50 to 55 average than this mid-30s average. And I'm very happy for people to be dropping off him because I just he's going to have a pop-off game. Even if he scores 40 this week, if he kicks for 250 again, I'm sticking on him because if you just do the math, right, if the guy's running for 125 meters a game, he's kicking for 250 meters a game, and he's a guy who makes 20 plus tackles a game, that's already 45 points. And 5 missed tackles. Dylan Brown is the best defensive half in the game, and he's not going to miss 5 tackles that often. And even if he misses 2 or 3, it's generally offset by tackle breaks and offloads and whatnot. So, yeah, no, it's an easy hold for me. I think you'd be crazy to move off him. He's still priced at 485K. So 1 score is not enough for me to write off him. I'm excited for people to drop off. I'd love to see Dylan become less than 20% owned and enjoy that because I think people will be getting back on the train pretty soon.
Yeah, spot on, man. I think the true value is about 650K for Dylan Brown as well. If I was going to throw a number out there. So, yeah, He's good. If I got to choose today between Atkinson and Dylan Brown, I might still go Dylan Brown. To be
Yeah,
honest,
I'm still Dylan Brown. Still Dylan Brown,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Atco was on 50 at the end of regulation in that game with 800 kick meters. So, yeah, I think Dills is the guy. Anyway, by the way, I just want to flag, we are sharing our view. If you think Dylan Brown's going to play the third fiddle role to Fletcher Sharp and Kalen Ponga and never break a tackle or have an attacking stat this year in a Newcastle side that isn't that great, then you can sell him as well. So I just want to flag, like, we don't, you got your own team, and if you got a different view, we're sort of playing it up a bit, but you can go your way with your team as well. I just want to give everyone that permission. Dave Fafita up next, and I'm going to have a similar rant because there's people talking about selling Dave Fafita, and they are fools. They are fools. Dave Fafita, I don't know why I'm so passionate now.
Yeah, this is like your Papali rant when he got benched.
Oh, that was unfair. But these guys are good. So Dave Fafita, right? He was in that game, the most ridiculous sin bin, right? And I'd already sworn enough about Jermaine Hopgood's ridiculous sin bin that, I just sort of copped the Fafita one on the chin. But he was tracking for a 45 to 50 type of score in a game where he didn't really bust it open. Didn't have a try in that game or anything like that. And I'm good with that. I'm fine with that. Like, he's priced at like a 35. His price moved 2K. So he basically scored his break even with the sin bin, with the loss of minutes there. Like, it's fine. There's no issues here at all. He's fine. Like, stick with him. Dave Fafita can average 60 plus. Like, he could potentially be 25 points of value, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I called off him leading into the game just because I thought if he plays 50 to 55 minutes and Aitken plays 80, then I don't love Fafita. But the fact that he played 70 on the trot and Aitken was the one that moved to middle and took a break, like Fafita, even last year, when you can consider it his down year, his PPM was still the same. And so if he got the minutes, he still would have averaged 55 to 60, and he got the minutes. And he is in a much better offensive team than the Titans were, and they looked to use him. Like, they gave him the ball a ton. Like, if I just quickly pull up his stats from the game, I think it was he didn't have a lot of tackles, but I'm looking at his meters gained here, and it was 170 meters gained, which is exactly what you want to see. David Fafita running the ball that much, he's going to get tackle breaks. He's going to get offloads. In fact, did he even break many tackles this game? I think he broke 3 tackles. If he's running for 170 meters a game, I reckon he's going to average 5+ tackle breaks a week. And yeah, I think I was more of a sell on Fafita before the game, and now he's like an easy hold for me. I think that narrative actually he scored below his break even, but for me, he became more of a buy. So if you were in the 47% that didn't own him, should be getting him. So that's how I feel about it.
Looking for signals there, and he's got the Roosters this week, who they'll bounce back, but they're not a juggernaut. Can I just flag too, actually, on this sort of section, Roosters, Nat Butcher. He was a pod people jumped onto. He's been benched this week for Suo Wong. Butcher, you can give him the flick if he's on the bench, but Suo Wong looked awesome in that game. He was the one Roosters forward that looked good. And if he gets 80 minutes, he's actually a bit of a pod. So he's one we'll talk about next week. I know you're a bit of a Wong fan, so just flagging that right now.
I'm a Wong truther, yeah.
If it ain't white, it's Wong. But Isaiah Yo, do you have Yo in your? You don't have Yo, do you?
No, I just thought it wasn't. I was tossing up Yo when Steep went down, but I went Colquhoun instead, and I'm happy with that decision.
Well, 65 minutes. That's the big thing there. I think if you started with Yo, you ride the wave here. I think he dropped 6K in that game, scored 52 in 65 minutes. Was tracking for a really good score. So, yeah, if I had Yo, I would stick it out. But if he plays 65 minutes again this week, I'd be going, all right, probably time to look for another move here, because you sort of want that 80 minutes, but maybe it's just a slow wind into the season. Reece Walsh, getting some questions about selling Reece Walsh. I think he's one of the more popular sells this week, actually, just because of how owned he is. Insanity to me. Keen to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, insane. He's still 626K. It's not like he's an 800K player who's bleeding cash. He's not that pricey for what he does. And look, as much as I hate to say it, I can't do this another year of Penrith defensive dominance, but Penrith just smoked them. Like, the level of just grit in their defense is versing Parramatta this week. I've followed Parramatta for 20 years. I've never seen that much grit in their defense. So you don't have to worry about that from Parramatta this Thursday. So Walsh, look, he's still priced 50. Like, he didn't really get into the game, but who did? All the scores were low for the Broncos, right? Like Haas scored 20 less than his break even, and that's what he played 80 minutes as well, or 79 minutes. It's too much to. Like, all the guys are going Walsh to kind of Ponga and stuff. And like, Ponga could come out with a 25 next week and Walsh scores 80. With wing fullbacks, they're all prone to a low score. And we've seen what Walsh does. Like, if you invested the money for Walsh here, I would not be falling off. Like, a lot of people, like exactly like you said before, that they're relying on Moses Leo. Like, man, guys, you can't rely on Moses Leo. He scored one game over like 30 points in his life, and it happened to be round 1, 2026. Like, he could theoretically not push over 30 again this year. I'm not saying it will happen, but it could happen. It could happen. Like, you never know. So yeah, I just don't know. Like, I would not be trading Reece Walsh for sure. Just have faith in you spent 2 months tinkering with your team. You can't fall off after one unless you just totally misjudge the role. So I like Reece Walsh still. He's not moving from my side.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. The way I see Walsh and hopping off Walsh is like, it's like you've swung down to the city, you've gone to Luna Park, you've lined up for the mousetrap, you've jumped onto the ride, you're loving it, and then you see one bit you don't enjoy. Maybe there's a bit of a cloud in the sky, and you go, nope, you unbuckle and you jump out, right? And you're just ending everything there. So
that is a very niche analogy. Where do you even come up with that?
I'm from Sydney, bro. I'm from Sydney.
Yes, so am I, but I would never use that analogy before.
It'll never be used again. I reckon that was the first time it's been used for footy.
But is there more chance of Moses Leo scoring 30 again, or the Luna Park analogy being used on this show?
I mean, I can control one of them. That's the thing. But for what I'm trying to say is, you've jumped on the roller coaster and you've committed. Right. And we talked about it preseason. Like, Walsh is a roller coaster. It's going to be up and down. He's not going to score 90 4 consecutive weeks for 27 consecutive weeks. That's just not real. Like, that doesn't exist. So I'm good with it. Like, it's a roller coaster. It started with a down. So be it. Team stunk. Everyone stunk for the Broncos. Easy Parramatta game next week, which I hate to say. I actually hope Parramatta get the upset, but no hop good. It's. I mean, Walsh. Look, Moses' kicking game might cause him troubles though. Like,
yeah,
he could.
Walsh running at Kelma.
Oh,
that's a scary proposition, man.
God, the slightest veer. Okay, Walsh is a key. Walsh is borderline captain if you want to do it. Then also, I've got to flag Ezra Mam is playing in the halves this week too. So that's great news for Reece Walsh. We know what that means for him. Now, Su'Feilongo, the man who, I've mentioned this on a few streams, but he was on 5 points at halftime. I've never been tagged, DM'd so much in my life, like, for a player's low performance. And it was all friendly. Everyone was just giving me smack. But in the Discord, I pinned every single one of them. And I was on the drinks watching the Parramatta game and recorded a video and said, I guarantee you guys he scores over 40. There is no doubt in my mind. Partially because I knew how bad Parramatta were in that game. And he pumped out the 55. So, got to be smug about it. But for Su'Feilongo, a lot of people are still looking at selling him because that first half really damaged their trust. And they're looking at their sides and thinking, oh, everyone's perfect. I mean, look, Tom Chester, Mancasini, Setu 2, Moses Leo. Like, these guys are guaranteed 50 plus on a weekly basis, as we've seen in 1 week. So why do I need Su'Feilongo who's more volatile than these guys? It's just not true. I'm sorry, this is a bit of a therapy session because
this whole session has become personal, I feel, for both of us.
I'm seeing these views out there, and I'm seeing even like some of the fantasy pages are saying this stuff. And it's just like, guys, just relax. Like, you've done a preseason of analysis. Like, back yourself. We like Su'Feilongo. We said we were hopping on the roller coaster. His roller coaster was 1 game, and we got to finish on the top of it. So just keep on riding. There's going to be games where he sucks 100%, but his average is going to be in the 40s somewhere. I think that's my expectation.
Like low 40s. It exactly told me what I wanted to see, that he was going to be a low 40s guy with some value in a tough wing fullback spot. Definitely.
Amen, man. Yeah, exactly. So stick with Su'Feilongo, don't sell him. Now, the sells, the guys that you can move off. Cooper Bye, Jermaine McEwen, Chris Randall, Casey McLean, Scott Drinkwater. For Cooper Bye, I like Cooper Bye, and if we didn't have so many cheapies, he'd actually be someone I'd try to persist with for a bit. But because we have so many cheapies, you just got to move off. Like, he's not going to get the minutes. And Hannay came out and said he's not going to get the minutes too. So that one's an easy one to flick, especially if you're going for Ryan Couchman or Martin or one of these guys. Jermaine McEwen, I'll throw to you here. He played 65 minutes.
65, yeah.
Yeah.
He looked pretty good. I would say that they didn't really use... Like, he looked good with the ball in hand, but he's like 37 odd meters gained. He's just like... There's so many mouths to feed in this Knights team. And last year when he was doing well at the back end, like, a lot of people were injured. Like, the ball is not really going to go to Jermaine McEwen when the ball has to go to Ponga, the ball has to go to Sharp, the ball has to go to Dylan Brown, the ball has to go to Dylan Lucas. Like, these guys are all weapons. Like, the ball has to go to Bradman Best. Like, there's not going to be much left over. And now they've got Mooney that will get the ball a lot. I just think McEwen he's solid. In fact, I'd have him close to a hold. The only reason he'd be a sell is just like, you got to make some moves to get the buys, right? Like, you can't just add 2 more empty spots to your roster. You got to move off somebody. And out of all the players that are kind of relevant, McEwen is a guy that I'd feel safer moving off, just given the 2 positions with the most value this year are edge and half, and McEwen at that kind of odd price. Look, he's got value, but I would take Noah Martin over him. I think Noah Martin's a much better scorer for cheaper. Same with Couchman, etc. So if you've already got those guys and you got McEwen, then I would definitely be holding McEwen. But if you have to sell someone, he's one that I would be okay leaving with.
Yeah, I agree with that. Lack of 80 minutes, that's a big thing. Like, if he plays the 80, he's value, but without that, it's going to be kind of middling. Now, Chris Randall up next. I think it was a 26-point game from him, 49 minutes. In a game where they were tackling a lot, so you think that would suit him. But the 49 minutes is the big thing. And again, we were frosty on Chris Randall in the preseason because he requires 70 minutes, but has never consistently been a guy who's earned the 70 minutes in a team. And we just didn't see it here. So for Chris Randall, if you jumped on that, it's a pretty nice price, $474K. Like, if you're making a couple of moves, you can move to some of the buys we've talked about. You could cash him down and use the money to go to a big gun. Like, you've got a lot of options here. So you're actually in a pretty nice position. That's probably the silver lining to the low score that you copped last week. I'll throw to you, Biz, here, Tino, because I didn't include him in this part, but I did want to talk about him when we talked about Randall. Is he one you would sell with the 50-minute roll, or do you think it was just because of the blowout game?
It's hard because I tried to look at this yesterday because I was thinking, I was trying to figure out the answer for that. But he did come off at the 27-minute mark. So it's not like, even if you double that in the second half, it's still only 55 minutes. So it's not as many minutes as you want. Like, you want a 60 to 70-minute Tino in the prop rotation. On the flip side, they got smashed. So they need Tino on the field. Like, the thing is with their bench players, like, they're okay, but they're not really natural-born leaders. And without Jolliffe there, who's really solid, who can play big minutes, like, someone needs to step up. Like, all these guys on the bench were serviceable, like Simpkin and Curtis Morin and whatnot. But I just think Tino needs to be there. I think Randall wasn't that good at lock as well. So I just think that Randall's not going to finish the season at lock. Tino could move back there. Yeah, my Tino analysis that I'd be holding him. I'd be watching him. If he's getting cheaper, I think at some stage he'll definitely be a buy. But I think they're working him into some minutes. I think he did have a bit of a preseason checkered by injury and things like that. So, yeah, I still like Tino.
Yeah, minutes were messy across the board because I looked at the Titans list and it felt like no one got minutes except for the 2 edge back rowers. So it's a bit of a messy one. You kind of want to steer clear of it right now. I will say Tino could pop off against the Dolphins, by the way, under strength, running it, Schneider at hooker and Gilbert, who likes a missed tackle, and Knowles, who's been bowled over a few times too. Casey McLean, 21 with the try. We talked about that. Look, he's going to have some big days, but I just reckon it's a great opportunity to move off him. Again, that price point is really nice for a sell. So he's one you can flick. And Scott Drinkwater, look, rib issue, had to go off, get pain injections. He has good fixtures coming up, but that rib really seemed to bother him. I just personally think that you get rid of that kind of issue as soon as you can. So
yeah, I think NRL physio. I think that's an easy one. I think NRL physio came out and said, like, with the kind of injury he has, you can just cop any kind of hit to the ribs and the pain becomes 9 out of 10 again, and you have to either go off for the game or go off for more needles and lose 10, 15 minutes. I think with Drinkwater as price, I would be actually, if you don't have Ponga, like moving to a Ponga, moving to a Walsh, or making moves elsewhere. Just because you don't want a guy at 600K who could be a week-to-week guy who just takes a rest just because of the rib issue. But the fixtures are good. I was really high on Hopgood this year. I don't have him, but I like having him in the team, so I could see why you'd want to hold him. But again, it's one of those issues where you just need some sells, and he's kind of that odd man out.
Yeah, blessing is he gives you some flexibility to target some of these guys we talked about. Biz, thanks for jumping on, man. Just on about an hour here, so appreciate you jumping on by hold sell this week. Absolute cracker. Everyone, good luck this week with your trades, and yeah, let us know who you end up buying.